Hello everyone. I regret to announce that today even the esteemed Kalandar, who once spoke directly with Israel and the United States, is no longer with us. What will happen to this country now? The man you see on screen was a close friend of both the US and the Jewish people. He was a Muslim. But what ministerial position will the US give him now? Why are the girls especially celebrating Khamenei's departure? Going back a few years, the world's most extravagant party was held here, a record that remains unbroken to this day. That was a time when Iran was more open and girls even wore revealing clothes to school. And it was because of this party that the then powerful emperor had to flee the country? What is Iran like today? What is the atmosphere and life like? What do people mainly do? What is the air and transportation system like? And here are places so beautiful you'll be amazed. The beauty is also incredibly diverse. Whether it's the nature or the people, you've probably never seen a video like this of Iran before. What if I told you one of the most sanctioned countries on earth is also one of the hardest to break? That is Iran. A country surrounded by pressure, yet still standing. For decades, Iran has faced sanctions, isolation, covert attacks, and military threats. And still, it has not collapsed. That alone raises a bigger question. Why? Why does a country under constant pressure continue to shape the politics of the Middle East? Why do powers like the United States, Israel, and regional rivals keep watching Tehran so closely? The deeper you look, the stranger it gets. Iran is not just about headlines, not just nuclear disputes, not just conflict. It is a civilization with memory, a state built on ideology, and a society carrying both resilience and contradiction. Since the Iranian Revolution, power in Iran has been shaped by religion, strategic deterrence, and survival under pressure. Under leaders like Ali Khamenei, that system has endured wars, sanctions, and unrest. But endurance has a cost inside Iran. Debates over reform, identity, and the future keep growing. And that is the paradox. Outside pressure has not erased the state. In some ways, it hardened it. On paper, this should not work. Yet somehow, it does. And that is where the real story begins. Because to understand Iran, you first have to understand why a nation under siege still behaves like a regional power. But that power does not begin with politics. It begins with the land. Look at a map, and Iran feels almost oversized. Mountains in the north, deserts in the center. Long coastlines on the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, and the vast Caspian Sea to the north. It has barriers, corridors, choke points, almost like geography designed for strategy. Iran covers roughly 1.6 million square kilometers, making it one of Asia's largest countries. And inside that space lives a population of around 90 million. That scale matters, because this is not just territory, it is leverage. Iran sits between the Middle East, South Asia, and the Caucasus, close to Central Asia, close to global energy routes, close to the Strait of Hormuz, where a major share of world oil passes. Too close. And then there are resources. Among the world's largest natural gas reserves, major oil reserves, the world's most famous saffron, pistachios once called green gold, a harsh landscape producing abundance. That should feel contradictory. And it is. Persians, Azeris, Kurds, Lurs, Baluch, and others add another layer to the story. Many identities. One state, on paper, Iran looks difficult to govern. Yet geography keeps giving it weight, because some countries become powerful through empires, others begin powerful simply because of where they are. But here's where many people get surprised. Iran is not only deserts, sanctions, and headlines. There is another Iran, and it looks very different. Look at Tehran, a city pressed against the Alborz Mountains where snow-covered peaks rise above highways and towers, where you can ride a metro in the morning and take a cable car toward Toshal by afternoon. Who even imagines that? Tehran holds millions of people, a vast capital with expressways, major airports, universities, technology hubs, museums, and one of the region's largest metro systems. That does not fit the stereotype, And that is the point, because modern Iran often hides behind political headlines. Walk through lit boulevards, see parks filled at night, see old palaces beside glass towers. It feels layered, ancient, iconic and restless, and modern. Even the contradictions are visible. Traffic can be intense, yet public transit runs deep. Sanctions bite, yet urban life keeps adapting. On paper, this city should feel isolated, yet parts of it can feel unexpectedly European. That's the paradox again. A country many imagine frozen in conflict still builds, moves, innovates. And Tehran is the proof, because before you understand Iran's history, you have to see the capital that quietly challenges the myth. And once you see that, the story gets older, much older. Persia did not begin as a country. It began as an idea. And that changes everything. Long before modern Iran, this land produced one of history's greatest empires. Cyrus the Great changed the map, not only through conquest. From Egypt to Central Asia, Persian rule stretched across worlds most people could barely imagine. It was massive. Then came Persepolis. Not merely a capital, a declaration in stone. Power belongs here. Then the story shifts. The Sassanids rise. Khosrow II stands against Rome itself. Think about that. Iran was not watching empires. Iran was one, then invasion came. Arab armies, new faith, new rulers, and still Persian identity did not vanish. It adapted. That may be the oldest Iranian pattern. Bend, absorb. Return empires collapsed. Iran remained. Iconic, you can still feel that memory today. Many nations remember centuries. Iran remembers millennia. Not as something temporary, as inheritance. That is why modern Iran often carries civilizational confidence far beyond its size. It does not always act like a young nation-state. Sometimes it acts like an empire remembering itself. And once you see that, today's Iran begins to make deeper sense. But ancient pride can inspire greatness. It can also fuel endless struggle. But then the story breaks because Iran was not always the Iran people imagine today. There was another era, and it feels almost unreal. Under Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the country pushed hard toward modernization. Cities expanded, universities grew, women entered public life in new ways. Tehran looked, to some visitors, almost European. And then came 1971. At Persepolis, the Shah held one of the most extravagant state celebrations ever staged. A royal spectacle in the desert, luxury tents, world leaders, a performance of imperial memory. It was meant to project strength. For many, it projected distance. That was the paradox. The state looked powerful, but anger was growing underneath. Economic strain, political repression, religious opposition, then the rupture, the revolution. Iconic, the Shah falls. Ruhollah Khomeini returns, and Iran changes course. Fast, a monarchy becomes an Islamic Republic. Modernization does not vanish, but it is redefined. That is what makes Iran so hard to simplify. Before 1979, one vision of the future. After 1979, another. Two different ideas of what Iran should be. And both still haunt the country. That tension remains. Between openness and control. Identity and ideology, ancient pride and revolutionary belief. And maybe that is the deeper Iranian paradox. It did not move from old to new, it moved from one modernity into another, and that may explain why Iran still feels unfinished. And this is where the story turns harder, because Iran is not only debated for its history, it is feared for its power. Why does a sanctioned country still shape the region? That question leads straight to security. Iran spent decades building deterrence, missiles, drones, domestic defense industries, not because it had unlimited resources, because isolation forced adaptation. That is the paradox again. Pressure produced capability. Today, Iran's ballistic missile program is often viewed as one of the largest in the Middle East. Think about that. A country under sanctions still built strategic leverage. Then comes the nuclear dispute. Iran says its nuclear program is peaceful. Critics fear weapon potential. Conic. And that argument has shaped global diplomacy for years, including disputes tied to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. But the deeper story is not only nuclear, it is survival. Iran's doctrine often centers on preventing vulnerability. Never be easy to strike. Never be easy to isolate. That logic also helps explain tensions with United States and Israel. This is not just geopolitics. It is deterrence psychology. And whether one agrees or disagrees, that makes Iran hard to ignore. Because power is not always measured by wealth. Sometimes it is measured by the cost of confronting you. And that may be why Iran remains at the center of so many storms. But power is only part of the story. Because states make headlines, people make nations. And every day Iran can feel very different from the version seen on TV. Walk into a family home, and many visitors talk about the same thing first: hospitality. Tea arrives, food appears, conversation stretches for hours. That matters, because culture often survives where politics divides. And Iranian life carries strong family structure, deep respect for education, and social codes shaped by both tradition and change. That tension shows up everywhere: conservative, yet evolving, old values, meeting modern pressures. Marriage still carries weight. Family approval matters, yet divorce has risen in recent decades, reflecting economic strain and shifting expectations. That surprises people. Conic. So does the role of women. Debated, complex, changing, far harder to reduce than headlines suggest. Then there is faith. In cities and towns, Shia traditions shape much of public life, while Sunni communities also form part of Iran's social fabric. Difference exists. Coexistence exists too. And then, the ordinary beauty: saffron rice, kebabs, fresh bread, endless tea. Food here is not just food, it is social glue, and maybe that is the deeper lesson. Iran is not only ideology, not only conflict, it is also millions of ordinary lives trying to build dignity, parents raising children, students studying, late families arguing, then sharing dinner. And once you see that human layer, Iran becomes harder to stereotype, because behind the state, there are people. And then there is another Iran, the one many outsiders never see. A stranger Iran, an older Iran, almost mythical. Take Kandavan people, still live inside volcanic rock formations carved like honeycombs, homes inside mountains, and somehow they work warm in winter, cool in summer. Ancient design solving modern problems. That feels very Iranian. Then there is Valley of Stars. Wind cuts through strange rock towers. At night, the sounds can feel almost supernatural. Locals built legends around it. Some say a star once fell there, and honestly, standing there you understand why. Then comes Mashhad, pilgrimage, light, emotion. Millions come for faith, not tourism, something very different. And farther south, Yazd, a desert city shaped by silence. Conic windcatcher towers pulling cool air without electricity. Imagine that. Passive climate engineering centuries old. Who even thinks like that? Then Shiraz, poetry, gardens, ruins, memory layered on memory, and beneath all this older echoes still survive. Zoroastrian fire temples, ancient beliefs, living traces of worlds before Islam. That may be the deeper mystery. Iran often feels less like one civilization and more like several civilizations stacked on top of each other. Desert, empire, faith, legend, all in one place. And once you see that, Iran stops looking merely geopolitical. It starts feeling almost timeless. And this may be the strangest Iranian paradox of all. The country was squeezed, sanctioned, restricted, cut off. And yet, it did not simply stop. It adapted. That should feel impossible. On paper, pressure should weaken a nation. But sometimes, pressure hardens it. Iran built around scarcity, not because it wanted to, because it had to. And that changed the culture. See a barrier. Work around it. Build anyway. That pattern keeps returning. Despite isolation, domestic industries grew, energy systems, defense production, research, even fields like nanotechnology and aerospace pushed forward. Think about that. A country under constraints, still trying to innovate. That is not a normal story. That is a paradox: limited access, still adaptation, financial pressure, still infrastructure, chronic external squeeze, still internal capacity. Perfect? No. Strained? Absolutely. But survival became its own form of strategy. And maybe that is the deeper lesson. Iran did not respond to pressure only with resistance. It responded with improvisation. That feels very different, almost civilizational. Take a problem, turn it into a workaround, turn the workaround into a system. Who even does that? And maybe that is why Iran remains so hard to classify. Weak, but durable, restricted, but inventive, isolated, yet still building. And sometimes the countries forced to survive the hard way, learn things stronger countries never have to learn. And maybe that brings us to the real question. Why has Iran not collapsed? Empires fell, revolutions came, wars happened, sanctions endured, and still Iran remains. Why? Maybe because this story was never only about power. It was about layers, history, identity, strategy, survival, each one reinforcing the other. That matters, because some countries are built mainly on borders. Iran feels built on memory, and memory can be hard to break. Think about what this land has absorbed: conquest, isolation, internal upheaval. Yet the state changed and the civilization continued. That may be the deepest lesson. Durability is not always about being strongest. Sometimes it is about enduring longest. And Iran has made endurance a habit. That is why it remains worth studying. Iconic. Not because it is simple, because it is complicated. Ancient yet modern. Pressured yet resistant. Divided yet cohesive in unexpected ways. A paradox on almost every level. And maybe that is what many outsiders miss. Iran is not only a geopolitical problem to analyze, it is a civilization trying to preserve itself under pressure. That is a different lens. And once you see Iran that way, many contradictions start making sense. Maybe strength is not only missiles, not only resources, not only ideology. Maybe real strength is the ability to absorb shocks and keep going. And if that is true, Iran is not just a country to watch. It is a case study in survival. If this journey changed how you see Iran, then this video gave you something valuable, and that was the goal. Subscribe for more deep travel documentaries, and tell me in the comments, which country should we uncover next?